The chronometer on the main console reads 800 hours, though time has become a purely administrative concept down here. Without the sun, the body relies on the hum of the ventilation cycle to distinguish morning from night. I am sitting at the communications desk on level 4, the command center of this buried concrete cylinder. The ambient temperature in the room is holding at 12 degrees Celsius. It is cold enough that I can see my breath misting against the dark glass of the dead monitors, but warm enough to keep the hydraulic fluid in the blast door mechanisms from gelling completely. I am wearing 3 layers of wool and the modified flight suit I salvaged from the locker, but the chill here is pervasive. It radiates from the 9 feet of concrete and steel surrounding me, a constant reminder of the frozen wasteland 300 feet above my head. My morning routine begins with a tactile inspection of the moisture seals. This silo was built in the 60s to house an intercontinental ballistic missile, not a human being, for an extended duration. The structure breathes, it sweats. Condensation is my primary enemy, more immediate than the radiation outside. I run my gloved hand along the conduit pipes running vertically down the wall. There is a slick film of water accumulating near the junction box. If this drips into the relay circuitry, I lose the air scrubbers. I grab a rag from the bucket, gray and stiff with old grease, and wipe the pipes down with methodical strokes. The cloth becomes heavy and damp. I wring it out into a plastic collection bin. Every drop of moisture must be captured, filtered, and reused. The physics of water conservation dictates that I cannot afford to lose even this industrial sweat. I move to the power management rack. The readout for the battery bank is the only light in the corner, a glowing amber needle that twitches nervously. The geothermal generator on level 9 is struggling. The bearings on the turbine are worn, creating a subtle vibration that travels up through the floor grates and into the soles of my boots. I can feel the irregularity in the spin, a micro hitch in the rotation every 4 seconds. I need to adjust the voltage regulator to compensate for the fluctuation, or I risk frying the charging circuit. I take a small flathead screwdriver and turn the potentiometer entirely by feel, listening to the pitch of the inverter. It goes from a rough whine to a steady, low-frequency hum. The needle stabilizes at 26.4 volts. It is a temporary fix, but it buys me another 12 hours of stable current. The radio stack is next. This is a ritual of patience. I power up the Hallicrafter's receiver, a beast of a machine filled with vacuum tubes rather than microchips. Modern electronics died in the first week when the electromagnetic pulses scoured the atmosphere, but this old analog copper and glass survived. I wait for the tubes to warm up. They emit a faint orange glow and a smell of hot dust and ozone that is the most comforting scent in the world. I put on the heavy headset, the leather cups cold against my ears, and slowly sweep the dial across the 40-meter band. The static is thick, sounding like gravel pouring down a metal chute. The ionosphere is shattered, bouncing signals erratically, but I listen for patterns in the chaos. A rhythmic click, a carrier wave, anything that suggests order. Today there is nothing, just the white noise of a dying planet. I verify the pressure differential gauges. The survival of this environment depends on positive pressure. The air pressure inside the silo must remain slightly higher than the atmospheric pressure outside. This ensures that if there is a microscopic breach or a failing gasket in the upper levels, the air pushes out rather than letting the radioactive dust suck in. The gauge shows we are at 15.2 psi, a safe margin. I tap the glass face of the gauge with my fingernail, a habit to ensure the needle isn't stuck. It wobbles and settles back. The air filtration system is laboring, though. I can hear the blower motor struggling against the resistance of the HEPA filters. They are clogged with particulates. I will have to take them out and shake them down again. A dangerous task that releases contaminated dust into the filter room, but I have no fresh replacements left. Hunger is a dull ache that I have learned to compartmentalize. I open a tin of preserved peaches from the Strategic Reserve, dated 1994. The metal lid resists the opener, the steel thick and unyielding. The syrup is thick and tastes metallic, but the sugar provides a necessary spike in blood glucose. I eat standing up, using a plastic spoon, scraping the sides of the tin until the metal shines. Waste is not an option. While I eat, I stare at the schematic of the silo taped to the wall. It is a cross-section of my world, 9 levels of existence, capped by a 100-ton door of hardened steel. I trace the lines of the ventilation shafts with my eyes, visualizing the airflow, looking for choke points. My mind is constantly running simulations of failure. If the intake valve freezes, how many minutes of breathable air do I have? The calculation is automatic. Roughly 4 hours before carbon dioxide toxicity begins to impair cognitive function. Level 1 is the source of my current anxiety. The remote sensor array near the main hatch has been sending erratic telemetry for the last 6 hours. The Geiger counter wired to the entryway is clicking. It is not the frantic scream of a high-dose event, but a steady, rhythmic ticking that shouldn't be there. The background radiation in the entryway usually holds steady, shielded by the Earth. This fluctuation suggests 2 possibilities. Either the sensor tube is failing due to age and cold, or something radioactive has been physically deposited right against the external seal. I cannot see it from down here. The CCTV cameras were blinded by grit and ash months ago. I am flying blind, relying on a needle jumping on a chart recorder to tell me if death is knocking at the door. I decide to perform a manual diagnostic of the water pump before investigating the sensor. The pump is located on the lower maintenance deck. The descent down the spiral staircase is dizzying. The metal steps are graded, allowing me to see the dark drop all the way to the flooded bottom of the silo. The air gets colder as I descend, heavy with the smell of stagnant water and rust. The pump is an electric centrifugal unit that pulls from the local water table. It is making a grinding noise, metal on metal. I kneel on the cold grating, the dampness soaking instantly into the knees of my suit. I place my hand on the pump housing. It is hot to the touch. Too hot. The intake filter is likely clogged with sludge from the aquifer. The groundwater is shifting, carrying more sediment as the soil structure above collapses without vegetation to hold it. Maintenance requires shutting down the water flow. I turn the isolation valve, the wheel stiff with corrosion. It screeches as it turns, a sharp sound that echoes up the silo shaft like a gunshot. I flinch. My misophonia makes sudden, sharp noises physically painful, triggering an adrenaline spike that I have to breathe through. I wait for the echo to die down, leaving only the dripping sound of the leak in the overhead pipe. I disassemble the pump head using a wrench. The water that spills out is brown and smells of sulfur. I clean the impeller blades with a toothbrush and a solvent I distilled from cleaning fluids. The intricate work focuses my hands. I remove the grit, grain by grain, until the mechanism spins freely. Reassembling it, I feel a sense of control. Mechanics are logical. If you clean the part, it works. The world outside has lost that logic. I return to the command deck to log the maintenance. As I pick up the pencil, I hear it. It is faint, muffled by 20 meters of rock and concrete, but undeniable. A thud, then silence, then another thud. It is not the settling of the earth or the thermal contraction of the cooling pipes. Those sounds are sharp, cracking noises. This is dull, heavy, and rhythmic. It is coming from above. From the hatch, I freeze, the pencil hovering over the paper. The silo is designed to isolate sound, so for something to be audible down here, the impact source must be massive. I hold my breath to lower the noise floor of the room. Thud. It reverberates through the structure, a vibration more than a sound. Someone or something is hitting the blast door. I put on the headphones connected to the surface microphones, but there is only the howling distortion of the wind. The external mics are blown out. Useless. I have to go up. I have to get closer to the source. I open the locker and pull out the rebreather unit. The air in the upper antechamber is breathable but stagnant, and if I have to open the inner test port, I need protection from potential particulate ingress. The rubber of the mask straps is cold and pulls at my hair. I tighten it until the seal digs into my skin. I clip the portable radiation dosimeter to my chest pocket. I check the battery. Full charge. I grab the heavy iron crowbar, not necessarily as a weapon, but as a tool. I don't know what I intend to do with it against a 10-ton door, but the weight in my hand grounds me. The climb to level 1 is grueling. 9 flights of stairs. My breath rasps loudly in the intake valve of the mask, a sound I hate but cannot escape. With every flight, the temperature drops. By level 2, frost is coating the handrails. My boots crunch on scattered crystals of ice. The sound of the impact grows louder. Thud, thud, thud. It is deliberate. It has a cadence. This is not debris blowing in the wind. Debris hits randomly. This strikes with the precision of a metronome. My heart rate is climbing, visible on the pulse monitor on my wristwatch. 110 beats per minute. I force myself to slow my pace. panic consumes oxygen. I need to be analytical. I reach the landing of level 1. The blast door looms above, a massive circle of steel sealed with explosive bolts and hydraulic clamps. I am standing in the airlock antechamber. The cold here is ferocious, cutting through my suit. The thermometer on the wall reads 38 degrees Celsius. The steel of the hatch is conducting the surface cold directly into the room. The thudding is loud now. It sounds like a sledgehammer striking the outer plate. I approach the door cautiously, keeping my body low. I don't look at the center of the door. I look at the locking pins. I need to know if the vibration is loosening the seal. I place my gloved hand on the release lever. It is vibrating with every blow. The force required to shake this door is immense. A human could not generate this much force for this long without exhaustion. It has been 10 minutes since I first heard it. The rhythm hasn't faltered. I need better data. I cannot open the door. That would be suicide. The pressure differential would rupture my eardrums, and the radiation would kill me in hours. I reach into my tool belt and pull out a modified medical stethoscope. I removed the diaphragm and replaced it with a solid brass rod, creating a contact microphone. I pressed the brass rod against one of the massive hinge bolts welded to the silo wall. I put the earpieces in, sliding them under the straps of my mask. The sound transmits through the steel directly into my skull. It is deafening. Clang, clang, but now I can hear the texture of the sound. It is metal on metal. Hard steel striking hardened steel. It isn't a rock. It is a tool. I close my eyes and focus on the intervals. The brain seeks patterns. Is it a frantic hammering? No. It stops. Silence for 5 seconds. Then it begins again. 3 quick strikes. 3 slow, heavy strikes. 3 quick strikes. My blood runs cold. I know this pattern. Every radio operator knows this pattern. It is the universal distress signal. SOS. It repeats. ... dash, 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 ... Then a pause, then a new sequence. 2 long strikes, 1 short, 1 long, 1 short. 2 long, 1 short. My mind translates automatically. QRL. In the Q code brevity language of radio operators, QRL means, are you busy, or is this frequency in use? I pull the stethoscope away, my hands trembling. This is impossible. The precision of the code implies a lucid, trained mind, but the force of the blows implies heavy machinery or hysterical strength. Who uses Q code with a hammer? I press the rod back against the bolt. The message repeats. QRL, SOS. The usage of QRL is polite, almost bureaucratic. It clashes violently with the desperate nature of an SOS. It suggests someone following a protocol, someone military. I think of the neighbors I locked out. They were civilians. They would scream. They would pound randomly. They wouldn't tap out Q codes. This is a survivor from another site, or a remnant of the military command. I need to acknowledge, but I cannot reveal my status blindly. If I strike back, I confirm the silo is occupied. In a resource-starved world, this shelter is a vault of gold. If I let them in, I share my air, my water, my food. I have calculated my supplies to last 1 person for 4 years. 2 people halves that. The math is cruel, but it is the only law that matters. I stand there, frozen in the dilemma. The banging stops. I hold my breath. Did they hear me? Did I make a sound? I hear a scraping noise through the stethoscope like something dragging across the metal. Then silence. I wait for 10 minutes. Nothing. The wind howls outside, a low vibration in the steel. I retreat to level 2 to think. I cannot stay in the freezing antechamber. My extremities are starting to numb. I sit on the stairs, removing the mask to breathe easier. The silence of the silo returns, but now it feels hostile. The rhythmic comfort of the machinery is gone, replaced by the memory of that code. QRL. Are you busy? It is a ghostly inquiry. I pull out my notebook and log the time of contact. 9:45 hours. Duration, 18 minutes. Nature of signal, acoustic percussion, Morse code structure. I sketch the position of the door bolts. Could someone breach it from the outside? The outer surface is flush with the ground, designed to deflect shock waves. There are no handles. To open it, you need a hydraulic key or cutting torches. I return to the control deck on level 4. I need to distract myself with work, or the paranoia will eat me alive. I check the level 1 radiation sensor data again. The one that was looping. I look at the paper chart. The needle spikes correspond exactly with the physical blows I heard. The impact was jarring the sensor tube, causing the false reading. It wasn't radiation. It was kinetic shock. This confirms the physical reality of the visitor. It wasn't a hallucination. I stare at the monitors. I have to know what is out there. I have a fiber optic inspection scope in the maintenance bay. If I can thread it through the pressure equalization valve, I might get a visual. The preparation for the scope is delicate. The cable is fragile. I clean the lens with alcohol. I have to bore a small hole through the sealant of the valve port on level 1. This risks a minor pressure leak, but I can reseal it with epoxy. I gather the drill, the epoxy, and the scope unit. I ascend the stairs again. The physical exertion is harder this time. The adrenaline crash has left me weak. My legs burn. I reach the antechamber. The silence is absolute. I set up the drill, using a hand-cranked bit to avoid the noise of an electric motor. I drill slowly into the solidified sealant of the test port. The bit bites into the hardened foam. I break through. A tiny hiss of air escapes, positive pressure pushing out. Good. I feed the fiber optic cable into the hole. It snakes up the narrow channel designed for gas sampling. I watch the small handheld monitor in my palm. The image is grainy, black and white. I push the cable further, past the outer bend. The screen goes white, glare from the snow. I adjust the contrast. I am looking at the surface of the hatch from the side, just barely peeking over the rim of the concrete collar. The image clarifies. I see the gray ash swirling like a blizzard. I see the steel of the hatch. It is scarred, scratched deep, revealing raw metal beneath the oxidized paint. I pan the camera slowly. There is nothing standing on the hatch. No vehicle. No person. I rotate the view. Then I see it. Lying near the edge of the hatch mechanism is a shape. It is covered in a heavy lead-lined poncho, the kind used by reactor crews. It is motionless. Beside it lies a long metal pry bar, the source of the noise. The figure is crumpled, face down in the ash. They must have collapsed from exhaustion or exposure. The wind whips the edge of the poncho. They are not moving. I watch for 5 minutes. No rise and fall of the chest. No movement. Are they dead? Or just waiting? I pull the scope back. My hands are shaking. A body with military gear. If they are dead, they are a resource. Their suit, their tools, their supplies. If they are alive, they are a threat. But the code, QRL, they asked permission. They were polite until the end. I feel a pang of guilt that cuts deeper than the cold. I sat down there eating peaches while they hammered for their life. But protocol dictates isolation. Protocol keeps the air breathable. I seal the test port with the epoxy, smoothing it over with my thumb. I cannot help them now. The radiation levels out there would have given them a lethal dose in the time they spent hammering. I descend to the living quarters. I need to sleep. I haven't slept in 20 hours. I lie on the cot, staring at the concrete ceiling. The condensation drips in the corner. Plip, plip, plip. My brain transforms the sound into Morse code. Plip, 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 SOS. I put my pillow over my head. I can still feel the vibration in the floor. The wind outside is picking up, buffeting the ventilation stack. The whole silo groans. It is a living thing, suffering under the weight of the winter. I drift into a shallow, uneasy sleep, dreaming of people with hammers for hands, tapping on the glass of my helmet. I wake up with a start. The red alarm light on the console is flashing. No siren. I disabled the siren speakers years ago to save my sanity. But the silent strobe is filling the room with pulsing crimson light. I scramble out of the cot, my heart hammering against my ribs. I rush to the main panel. The pressure alarm. We are losing atmosphere. The differential has dropped to 14.1 psi. The needle is falling visibly. 14.0, 13.9. Somewhere the seal has been breached. The positive pressure is failing. If it equalizes, the toxic air comes in. I scan the indicators. The leak is not on the lower levels. It is level 1, the main hatch seal. The hammering. They damaged the gasket. The vibration cracked the brittle rubber of the main seal. I grab the sealant gun and the emergency patch kit. I have to go back up. I have to go right to the source of the noise. I pull the full hazardous material suit from the rack, the heavy rubberized canvas one. I cannot risk a simple mask now. If the seal blows while I am there, I will be exposed to the outside atmosphere. I zip the suit up, the heavy brass zipper screaming in the quiet room. I run up the stairs. The weight of the suit makes me clumsy. I trip on level 3, slamming my shin against the metal grate, but I scramble up, ignoring the pain. The pressure in my ears is popping. 13.5 psi. The air is thinning. I reach the antechamber. I can hear the leak now. It is a high-pitched whistle, a shriek of air escaping through a fissure in the main hatch rim. The sound is piercing, drilling into my auditory nerve. It is the sound of the silo bleeding. I locate the breach. It is on the north quadrant of the hatch, right where the hammering was focused. The vibration shattered a section of the epoxy seal I applied years ago. I can see the dust from outside dancing at the lip of the crack, trying to push in against the stream of escaping air. I prime the sealant gun. It is industrial silicone, fast curing. I jam the nozzle into the crack and squeeze the trigger. The thick gray paste flows into the gap. The whistling changes pitch, becomes a gurgle, then stops. Silence returns. I spread the sealant with a putty knife, layering it thick. I watch the pressure gauge in the antechamber. It holds 13.4 psi. It stabilizes. I slump against the wall, sliding down to the floor. The suit is suffocating. I am drenched in sweat. I look up at the hatch. The silence is heavy. Then I hear it. A single soft scrape, right above my head. The body. It moved. It wasn't the wind. The figure I saw on the camera. They are not dead. They are right there, separated from me by 6 inches of steel. And they know I am here. The heat from my repair work, the vibration of the drill earlier, they know. The tapping starts again. But this time, it isn't Morse code. It is a slow, rhythmic scratching. Like a fingernail on a blackboard, magnified. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It is agonizingly slow. It sounds weak, desperate. I put my hand on the steel, palm flat. I can feel the faint vibration of the movement. I am here, I whisper inside my helmet, breaking my own rule of silence. I am here, but I cannot let you in. The scratching stops. Then a new sound. A voice, not a radio transmission, a physical voice, screaming through the thickness of the door, muffled and distorted into a ghost of a sound. Open. The word is barely intelligible, stripped of humanity by the steel barrier. Open. I scramble backward from the hatch, my boots skidding on the frosted steel floor of the antechamber. The word open hangs in the air, a phantom acoustic artifact trapped in the reverb of the small room. I do not reply. Protocol 1, maintain silence. Protocol 2, secure the perimeter. I grab the sealant gun and the tool bag, my breathing ragged and loud inside the suit. I retreat to the blast door of the airlock, spinning the wheel to seal myself off from the outer vestibule. The heavy iron mechanism locks into place with a definitive clunk. I am separated from the visitor by 2 layers of steel now, but the psychological barrier has been breached. They spoke. They are sentient. They are desperate. I descend the stairs rapidly, skipping steps, letting gravity pull me down into the bowels of the silo. I need distance. I need the comforting hum of the level 4 servers. Stripping off the hazmat suit in the decontamination zone is a frenzy of zippers and Velcro. I check the dosimeter. The reading is elevated but within tolerance. 0. 4 millisieverts. The breach was small and the positive pressure did its job, but the contamination isn't radiological. It's informational. I sit at the desk, hands trembling, staring at the blank logbook. I write down the time. 10:42 a.m. Event. Vocalization detected. Characteristics: male, hoarse, low amplitude. Analysis: the vocal cords were likely dehydrated, the pitch distorted by the thickness of the blast door. I try to rationalize the voice. Could it be pareidolia? The brain finding patterns in random noise? The wind vibrating the metal at a specific frequency that mimics human speech? I pull up the audio spectrum analyzer on the auxiliary monitor. The microphone in the antechamber, the one that isn't blown out, picked up the friction of the sealant gun, but the voice register is buried in the noise floor. I boost the gain on the 300 Hz to 3 kHz band. There is a spike, a faint organic waveform amidst the static of the wind. It wasn't the wind. Someone is up there, and they have stopped banging. The silence that follows is heavy, pressing against my eardrums. I return to the stethoscope method, but from a safer distance. I clamp a piezoelectric vibration sensor to the main structural support beam on level 3. It's less sensitive than the direct contact on the door, but it will pick up major impacts. I wire it to the speaker on the command deck. I turn the volume up. A low static hiss fills the room, the sound of the silo vibrating in the earth. I wait. Minutes stretch into an hour. The only sound is the dripping of condensation. My misophonia amplifies it. Drip. It sounds like a gunshot. Drip. I grit my teeth. I focus on the speaker, willing the visitor to make a move to prove they exist. Then the tapping returns. It is different this time. Lighter. Faster. It isn't the heavy pry bar anymore. It sounds like a small metallic object, perhaps a knife handle or a buckle, tapping against the hatch. The rhythm is precise. I grab my pencil. Dash, 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 dot, dash, dash. I transact the Morse code in real time. No, that's not right. It's coordinates. 38.89. Latitude. I freeze. 38.89. I know these numbers. My hand cramps around the pencil. The sequence continues. 9.9.6.1. Longitude. 38.89. 99.61. I don't need a map to know where that is. That is the geolocation of the farmhouse 3 miles east. My house. The place I left 20 minutes before the warning sirens wailed. The place where I left the breakfast dishes on the table. The tapping pauses, letting the numbers sink in. Then it spells a name. S-A-R-A-H. The pencil snaps in my hand. Sarah, my wife's name. I stand up, the chair screeching backward. This is impossible. Sarah is dead. The blast radius of the primary strike on Topeka would have vaporized everything in that sector within seconds. The fallout models were absolute. Nothing biological survived above ground in the first 48 hours. This visitor possesses classified intelligence or personal knowledge. Is it a psychological operation? A remnant of an enemy unit using retrieved data to lure survivors out? Or is it her? The logic of survival battles the logic of grief. The visitor knows the buttons to push. They are weaponizing my memory. I pace the small room. The air feels thinner. I look at the CO2 scrubber levels. The lithium hydroxide canisters are at 18% efficiency. They are saturated. The air is getting stale, heavy with my own exhaled carbon dioxide. This explains the slight headache pulsing behind my eyes, the sluggishness of my thoughts. Is the voice a hallucination induced by hypercapnia? Is the Morse code real, or am I decoding my own subconscious guilt onto random noise? I look at the vibration sensor readout. The needle is jumping. The impacts are real. The physics is undeniable. The meaning is the variable. I have to know. I go to the radio stack. I set the transmitter to the emergency frequency, 14,300 MHz. I haven't transmitted in 3 years. Breaking radio silence invites triangulation. If there are automated hunter-killer drones still circling the stratosphere, a transmission is a death sentence. But the visitor is at the door. I key the mic. My thumb hovers over the PTT button. I don't speak. I just key it. Click. I release it. Click. I wait. Above, the tapping stops instantly. They heard the RF interference. The unshielded electronics of the silo wiring would emit a faint hum when the transmitter keys up. They know I am active. They know I am listening. The tapping resumes, urgent now. SOS, SOS, ROOKS. They are using my call sign. Rooks. Only my squadron and Sarah knew that. Panic rises in my chest, a cold fluid filling my lungs. I am hyperventilating. I need to calm down. I check the O2 partial pressure. 19.5%. Low, but breathable. I go to the galley to drink water. The water from the tap is cloudy. The filter warning light is blinking red on the osmosis unit. I bypassed the alarm yesterday, thinking I could stretch the filter life. I was wrong. The silt is getting through. I take a sip. It tastes of earth and iron. I spit it out. I need to change the filters on level 9. But that means leaving the comms deck, leaving the sensor feed. I can't leave the visitor unattended. What if they breach? What if they have explosives? I decide to rig a remote monitor. I pull a long spool of coaxial cable and splice a portable speaker into the line. I will carry the sound of the door with me to the lower levels. The technical task grounds me. Stripping wire, twisting copper, wrapping electrical tape. It is simple, binary work. Connected or disconnected. I test the speaker. The tap, tap, tap follows me as I clip the speaker to my belt. It is a macabre rhythm track for my descent. Level 9 is the bottom of the world. The humidity here is 98%. The walls are slick with slime. The geothermal generator thumps steadily, a mechanical heart. I approach the water filtration array. The cylinders are massive, filled with charcoal and sand. I have to unscrew the primary housing. It requires a strap wrench and immense torque. As I strain against the wrench, the speaker on my belt chirps. The code has changed again. OPEN, OPEN. It is relentless. I grunt with effort, the rusty threads giving way with a screech. Dark, sludge-filled water gushes out, soaking my boots. I swap the filter cartridge with one of the last pristine units from storage. My hands are slippery with the grime. The smell is sulfurous. As I tighten the housing, the speaker on my belt emits a new sound. Not tapping, a scraping, a long screeching grind of metal on metal. It sounds like they are trying to wedge something into the door seal. I drop the wrench. It clatters on the grate. The noise in the confined space is deafening. I clutch my ears, the misophonia triggering a flash of white-hot rage. "Stop it!" I scream at the ceiling, at the tons of rock between us. I race back up the stairs, the speaker bouncing against my hip, broadcasting the sound of the assault on the door. They are attacking the hinges now. I can hear the dull thuds of a sledgehammer impacting the hardened steel pins. They are trying to shear the bolts. This is not a rescue. This is a break-in. The shift in aggression is palpable. Whoever, or whatever, is up there has lost patience. The polite QRL is gone. This is brute force. I reach level 4, gasping for air. The headache is worse. My vision is tunneling slightly at the edges. Carbon monoxide? I check the sensor. 35 ppm. Elevated but not critical. It's the stress. It's the lack of sleep. It's the ghost of Sarah tapping on my roof. I look at the CCTV monitor for the antechamber test port again. I need to see. I need to confirm the threat. I grab the drill again. I am going to drill a second hole, wider this time. I need to insert a borescope with a light. I prepare the equipment. I tape a high-lumen LED to the end of the fiber optic cable. I ascend to level 1. The banging is thunderous here. The whole antechamber shakes with each blow. Dust rains down from the ceiling cracks. I am terrified that the vibration will trigger a collapse of the entry tunnel. I approach the test port. The epoxy from my last repair is still tacky. I drill through it aggressively. The bit punches through. I shove the camera in. The monitor flickers. The LED illuminates the scene. The body is gone. The poncho lies in a heap, shredded. Standing by the hinge is a figure. They are wearing a patchwork suit, pieces of a flight suit, rubber tire treads, duct tape. They are swinging a maul. I cannot see the face. It is wrapped in scarves and a shattered gas mask. They swing again. Bang. The camera shakes. Then the figure stops. They turn. They look directly at the tiny hole I drilled. They saw the light. They drop the maul. They approach the camera. A gloved hand reaches out and covers the lens. The screen goes black. Then the tapping starts again, but this time it is right on the test port. Tick, tick, tick. They are inches away. They are tapping on the fiber optic cable itself. I yank the cable back, terrified they might pull it or pump gas through the hole. I seal the port with a steel plug and hammer it in. I am shaking uncontrollably. That was not Sarah. That was a scavenger, a raider. But the code. How did they know the code? How did they know Sarah's name? I retreat to the command deck. I pull the file on the neighbors, the Vance family dossier. I realize with a sinking horror, I didn't just lock out strangers. I locked out everyone. The manifest from the base. Did it leak? Did someone find the personnel files at the ruins of the admin building? The logical explanation calms me slightly. It is intelligence gathering. They found my file. They are using it to manipulate me into opening the door. It is a siege tactic. I check the battery array. The voltage is dropping. The constant use of the drill and the monitors is draining the reserve. I dim the lights. The silo plunges into a twilight gloom. The only illumination is the green glow of the radar scope, useless, and the red digits of the clock, 14 Mar hours. The siege has lasted 6 hours. The banging continues, a steady, rhythmic demolition. They are not going to stop. I have a weapon, a standard-issue M11911 pistol in the lockbox. I take it out. It feels heavy, cold. I check the magazine. 7 rounds. 7 rounds against a steel door. Useless. But if they breach, if they cut through, I rack the slide. The sound is crisp, mechanical perfection. I place the gun on the console. It is a totem of finality. The air quality alarm chirps. A yellow light. CO2 is climbing. The scrubber fan is failing. The motor brushes are worn out. I can hear the fan wheezing, spinning slower. If the fan dies, I suffocate in my own waste gas. I have a spare motor, but it is in the external shed. The shed on the surface. Accessible only by opening the main hatch. The irony is cruel. To fix the air, I must open the door to the poison and the visitor. I have one other option. The auxiliary ventilation intake. It is a manual snorkel system designed for post-attack clearing. It bypasses the main filters and pulls air directly from the surface through a small armored vent. It has a manual crank in the antechamber. If I open it, I can get fresh air, radioactive, but oxygenated. But opening that vent also opens a sound channel, a direct pipe to the surface. I could speak to them. I could demand identification. The banging stops again. The silence is sudden. I wait for the resume. It doesn't come. Instead, a new sound. A hissing, not air escaping. Something being sprayed. I look at the pressure gauge for the antechamber. It is rising. They are pressurizing the outer lock. They are pumping something in. Smoke? Gas? Or are they trying to equalize the pressure to blow the seals? I grab the rebreather. I have to make a decision. The air in here is getting thick. The CO2 headache is blinding now. I feel nauseous. My judgment is fraying. I look at the diagram of the auxiliary vent. If I open it, I can vent the antechamber. I can flush out whatever they are pumping in. It is a tactical risk, but doing nothing is a slow death by asphyxiation. I make the choice. I take the crowbar and the pistol. I ascend the stairs one last time. My legs feel like lead. I am climbing into the throat of the beast. I reach level 1. The hissing is loud. The seal on the main door is holding, but the pressure gauge shows the external vestibule is now at 20 psi. They are overpressurizing it to force the door inward. The steel plates are groaning under the stress. I move to the auxiliary vent control. A rusted red wheel on the side wall. If I turn this, a 6-inch pipe opens to the outside air, bypassing the main door. It will release the pressure. It will also let the noise in. I grip the cold metal of the wheel. My gloves squeak against the iron. I take a deep breath of the stale, recycled air. I turn the wheel. The wheel screams as the rust bond breaks. I spin it counterclockwise, bracing for the influx of toxic gas. There is a violent, percussive thump as the pressure differential equalizes, but it isn't an intake of smoke. It is a blast of outgoing air. The silo exhales. The overpressure I feared wasn't a gas attack. It was a natural atmospheric anomaly, or a Venturi effect created by the storm outside compressing air against the hatch. The hissing stops instantly. The silence that follows is absolute, stripped of the mechanical hum of the filtration system. Through the open 6-inch pipe, I hear the true voice of the surface. It is a hollow, flute-like moaning, the sound of wind passing over the jagged ruins of the concrete collar. There is no coughing, no shouting, no triumphant cry of a raider team breaching the perimeter. I press my face near the open vent, the pistol trembling in my right hand. The cold air pouring in smells of ozone, ash, and wet iron. It triggers a violent shiver that rattles the flashlight against the pipe. "Identify!" I scream into the tube. My voice sounds thin, pathetic against the scale of the storm. "I have a weapon. Back away from the hatch." I wait for a response. A curse, a bargain, a shot. Instead, I hear the sound again. Clack, clack, scrape. It is louder now, unshielded by the blast door. It doesn't sound like a man with a hammer anymore. It sounds devoid of intent. It is a rhythmic, mindless repetition, perfectly synchronized with the gusting wind I can feel on my cheek. The timing matches the wind speed. A cold realization begins to seep into my marrow, colder than the Kansas winter. The pattern, the QRL, the Sarah. I listen intently to the clacking through the open pipe. Clack, clack, clack. Without the distorting resonance of the 10-ton door, the Morse code dissolves. It isn't a crisp electronic dot dash. It is a mechanical catch, a slip, and a strike. My brain, starved of contact and desperate for meaning, had imposed a linguistic grid over a random mechanical chaotic event. But the physical strikes are real. Something is out there, and it is hitting the door with enough force to trigger the sensors. I cannot live in this ambiguity. I need to see the enemy. I need to kill the noise. I holster the pistol and grab the hydraulic release lever for the main hatch. The pressure is equalized. The seals will not bind. I pump the handle. The manual hydraulics whine, a high-pitched struggle against years of stasis. The heavy locking pins retract with a series of earth-shaking thuds. Thunk, thunk, thunk. I push the heavy steel door upward. It groans, shedding a cascade of dust and ice. The gray light of the nuclear noon floods the antechamber, blinding me after years of artificial amber gloom. The radiation alarm on my chest bursts into a frantic clicking, a Geiger storm warning of immediate danger. I don't care. I push the hatch fully open and climb out into the wasteland. The world is colorless. A flat, infinite plain of gray ash stretches to the horizon, merging with a leaden sky. The wind is ferocious, tearing at my suit, trying to throw me off the concrete pad. I look for the raider. I look for the body. There is no one. The concrete apron is empty, scoured clean by the abrasive wind. I turn to look at the hatch mechanism. The source of the torment, bolted to the external railing of the silo intake, frozen in place by rime ice and rust, is a crude skeletal contraption. It is a windmill, a vertical axis turbine made from cut-up stop signs and aluminum siding. It is spinning violently in the gale. Attached to the turbine's central shaft is a heavy, erratic cam mechanism, a jagged piece of scrap metal cut into an irregular shape. As the wind spins the turbine, the cam rotates, lifting a heavy steel counterweight. The arm I saw on the camera. It is a piece of truck suspension leaf spring. The cam slips and the spring slams down against the hatch's outer rim. Bang! The cam rotates further. Bang! It catches on a rusty spur, dragging the metal. Scrape! This is the voice. This is the visitor. A wind-powered automaton, built to hammer on my door forever, fueled by the storms that never end. It wasn't trying to get in. It was a machine designed to be annoying, to be heard deep underground. I step closer to the machine, shielding my face from the flying grit. There is a weatherproof pelican case bolted to the base of the windmill. It is faded, the plastic brittle. I wipe the layer of ash from the lid. A metal plaque is riveted to it, etched with an engraving tool. The handwriting is shaky, hurried. I read the inscription through the scratched visor of my helmet. Elias, we tried for 3 months. You never answered the radio. You never opened the door. The fallout is moving south. We can't wait anymore. If you are alive, follow the road to Wichita. We left this signal so you would know we were here. I love you, Sarah. I look at the date stamped at the bottom of the plaque. OC 14, 2024. My eyes lose focus. I do the math. The wind howls around me, screaming through the metal flutes of the windmill. 2024. That was 2 years ago. The visitor has been knocking for 2 years. The winter storms froze the mechanism solid weeks after they left, silencing it. Today was just the day the ice finally melted enough for the wind to break it free. The attack was just the machine waking up. Sarah is gone. She has been gone for 700 days. The logic holds. The math is perfect. I am the error in the equation. I reach out and grab the spinning turbine blade. The metal bites into my glove. The machine shudders and stops. The banging ceases. The silence of the surface returns, vast and indifferent. I look south, toward Wichita. The road is gone, buried under 10 feet of radioactive dune. There is no trail to follow. The battery in the machine's beacon box is long dead. The QRL was just the friction of a dying bearing. The SOS was the wind changing direction. I stand there for a long time, letting the radiation alarm scream, watching the gray snow fill the footprints I just made. I climb back down into the hole. I pull the hatch closed. I lock the pins. Thunk, thunk, thunk. I descend the spiral stairs, past the dripping pipes, past the failing generator, down to the warm amber light of level 4. I sit at the radio desk. I take off the headset. I turn off the squelch on the receiver. The room fills with the white noise of cosmic static, the sound of the universe's background radiation. I pick up the logbook. I pick up the pencil. I look at the entry for today. Visitor detected. I draw a single straight line through it. I lay the pencil down. The silo is secure. The air is holding. The battery is charging. I am safe. I am alone.